about this. Think about this right here. And then I had it pulled up for a second. And then arrogance makes you a nut.
I can agree with that.
Oh, wow.
Think about that.
I can agree with that.
Mm-hmm. And that's what Paul said. Don't think more of yourself than you ought to, you know. But that's essentially what it is. When you see an arrogant person, you're looking at a nut.
Yes.
Wow. And nut meaning insane? How they define a nut? Insanity?
It's in that family. They
Wow.
family members.
Wow. Sister Belinda, Sister Sherry.
It's aberrated. See, aberrated is you know what I mean? It's a crooked path.
Wow.
You know. It's not a straight path. Allah said, guide me on the straight path.
Wow.
And science teaches us that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Okay. All right, what we're gonna do, my dear sisters and wife,
beautiful wife, beautiful wife.
And beautiful sisters as well. Praise be to Allah. We will go ahead on and get started with prayer. Attention, prayer. And we pray. Surely I am being turned to thee, O Allah, being upright to he who originated the heavens and the earth. I'm not of the polytheists. Surely my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, and my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the world. No associate as he, and this is my commandment. I am of those who submit. O Allah, thou art the king, and there is no God but thee. Thou art my Lord, I am thy servant. I've been greatly unjust to myself, and I confess my faults. So grant me protection against my faults, O Allah, for none can grant protection against faults except thee. Turn away from me the evil and indecent morals, for none can turn from me the evil and indecent morals but thee. But guide me, O Allah, to the best of morals, for none can guide to the best of morals but thee. Ameen.
Ameen.
Oh, praise be to Allah. All right. So we sort of left off at we were talking about Scientology. And we said, based on the document that you have received, the first definition was an applied religious philosophy developed by L. Ron Hubbard, dealing with the study of knowledge, which through the application of its technology can bring about desirable changes in the conditions of life. Okay, so we would say desirable changes in the condition of life can also mean case gain. You feel me on that one? Case gain. Gain to to the case. Mm-hmm. Let's see if we have anything on case gain. Can you try to see if there's anything, Belinda, on case gain in the technical dictionary, you know, as such? But what I was going to say is that when we're not just really clearing Scientology, I mean, that's what we're doing. We're clearing the word Scientology, but I want to give us a good grip, inshallah, on the concept that wraps itself around Scientology. or that Scientology wraps itself around, whichever way you want to look at it. And that is I use the example of the minister back in 1978, 1979, with the first release of the first edition of the Final Call. And he was going through it actually was a reprint or transcript of a speech that he had given in this, I think it was some type of Black nationalist convention, because as many of you know, when the minister first stood up, the main people that were supporting him was the Black nationalists. You know, brothers like Haki Nabutu, Nabutu, and he was done. Gosh, I forget his last name, but anyway, he was a main. Haki Mahabutu, and he was one of the main nationalists. You know, you had Conrad Worrell, a lot of the different brothers from the nationalists came out in support of the minister, because the minister had his presence sort of helped to refocus, as he was such a prominent voice on Black nationalism and Black liberation in those particular times. And when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed, then there was quite a void in the world of Black nationalism. And so when the minister stood up, these are some of the first brothers that recognized the relevance and the actual need for Black people to start back focusing on Black. Because here we were in the late 70s, and in the late 70s, you know, there had been a great change that had taken place in America from 1970, when they started integrating all of the schools, and then Black people were able to go to a lot of places up to that point were not able to go. So in the speech, the minister, knowing he's not a Black nationalist, they weren't going to convert him to be, you know, exclusively Black nationalist. He said, and I'm a nationalist. And then he said that I'm a Baptist. Why? Because I've been baptized. And he goes into the whole thing about the spiritual aspect of baptism, how baptism, water is to the mind, water is to the flesh as wisdom is to the mind, and water is the universal sovereign, and it will help to clean the mind when it is immersed into the wisdom of God and bring you closer to God. He said that I'm a Methodist because the method of the method of Jesus teach. He said, I'm a Jehovah's Witness because I bear witness to the power and the strength of Jehovah. And so he said, I'm all of this. But on top of all of that, he was saying that I'm a Muslim. And so he's saying that you can be a Muslim, but then you can be all of these particular things too, because all of these things, as we've been teaching and studying in STW, that all of these things are like harmonics of the fundamental. The fundamental is Islam. And so all of these other things are just harmonics. These are just partial reality of these things that are being expressed. And that is so important in understanding really what we're talking about, the ology, the Scientology. And so when we say Scientology is, brings about desirable changes in the conditions of life, well, we can say the same thing about Islam. And so the same way that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that I am a Scientologist, excuse me, he didn't say that. He said that I am a Baptist or I am a Methodist, or I am a nationalist, we can say in the same spirit that we are Scientologists. Not in the sense he said when he said he was a Baptist, he didn't say it in the sense that he goes to the Baptist convention every year and and answers to some board of Baptists. He said he was speaking of Baptists in the truest sense, or the fullest sense of the word. All right. So, and the technology brings about desirable changes in the condition of life. Okay. All right. Good. Good, Belinda. Thank you so much. So if you look at the chat, you can see it brings, so in other words, what he's describing here, and this is what I'm trying to project to the participants, is that we look at, see, when you look at something, be able to look at it and see it for what it is, but be able to identify it with other words or other concepts. So the concept of desirable changes in the condition of life, it matches up with what we call case gain. And this is what we're trying to do. This is what we're striving for in STW, is case gain. We're doing it, we're casting a real broad net, sure enough. We're not getting you to sit down and talk about, how Aunt Mamie used to beat you every evening when you came home from school or something like that. We ain't going into all of that, but we're throwing a broad net in hopes and prayers that you will be able to take hold of something that will make a desirable change in the condition of your life. And see, even when we say condition of your life, what is life? See, when we start combing this thing with a fine tooth comb, then we understand that this process, this action, it is far reaching, and sometimes it reaches places that we are not even aware that it's even reaching. The changes in the condition of life. And then so you go to case gain. Case gain is the improvements and resurgences. If you receive a research, so what is a resurgence? A resurgence can sometimes be the cognition. The cognition, in the word cognition, you got ignition. Or a related word would be ignition. So you begin to ignite or cause a resurgence in your mind. So it's improvements and resurgences a person experiences from auditing. Okay, and then we're gonna go to the next word that we will be going into actually is auditing. Of course, we really got a ways to go. Looks like we're gonna be in the next year on this doggone Scientology, because we need to understand that. See, if you understand Scientology this Scientology is really a part of Islam. See, when we look at it and we see it as one, then we get out of this condemnation without knowledge. Because I've seen numerous people, among us, and especially on social media, I mean, they just really dog the minister about Scientology. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, even in how to eat, not how to eat to live, but our Savior has arrived. He talks about how our people, and we do it too to a degree, how we condemn without knowledge. You see, because it's convenient, but then sometimes it could be an engram, sometimes it could be a lot, sometimes it could be a secondary. All right. So being aware of these things helps you to develop your own spiritual immune system. As I've been studying this thing of viruses, and I'm not quite ready to to make my statement yet on just what the essence of a virus or what makes a virus what it is. A virus is not a living thing. First of all, they say a virus is a piece of information. And so that's why we said in our definition of the IAB virus, the I am better virus, is just another piece of information that is mixed into the computation of reality that takes you off of the straight path. So when the white man said he's better, he said, you know, he was brought up, he was born with the idea that he is better. So this is false information when mixed into reality produces what is essentially a lie. And this lie, however, has caused in this dispensation of time, which is the last, I believe it is the last 9,000 years of our history, I forget the exact number, this lie is causing it is a catalytic factor. It is a catalyst that speeds up the process of Allah's truth being established here on earth, leading us to breakthroughs and understanding. So getting back to Scientology, we want to look at Scientology for what it is. Scientology is another harmonic, which harmonic, when you look at harmonic, so I want you to get to the point where you're just looking at every word. Harmonic is something in harmony. So that means if I'm singing a lead line over a song and then somebody sings in harmony with me, they're not singing the exact same note, but what they're singing has parts of the note inherent in it to where it adds to the experience of the basic thing that is being sung. Okay, so you have the application of the technology bringing about desirable changes, bringing about case gain. This is what we are after case gain. All right. So you go down. Somebody want to read the next thing from with the next part that's got within the parentheses? Go ahead, Belinda.
Taken from the Latin word socio.
I think they pronounce it skio, I believe.
Skio?
That's how.
Okay. Taken from the Latin word skio, which means knowing is the fullest sense of the word. And the
Knowing
Greek,
is knowing in the fullest sense.
all right, let me start over. Taken from the Latin word skio, which means knowing in the fullest sense of the word. And the Greek word logos, meaning study of.
Okay. Scientology, taken from the Latin word "scio," meaning knowing in the fullest sense of the word. And so this is what we are embracing, that what we want to embrace about Scientology is that we want to know in the fullest sense. So what is the fullest sense? Will you ever know the fullest sense of anything? See, if in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, when you understand a word, then you understand God. And then if you're trying to understand or know something in the fullest sense, well, then the fullest sense of something, it is changing as we speak, because everything is changing. So you'll never really know the absolute fullest sense. There's no real absolute fullest sense, because whatever the word is expressing, it is something that is evolving along with Allah's universe. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right.
Yes,
So,
sir.
so
Yes,
what
sir.
we're trying to do when we begin to look at these particular things, then we begin, as the minister uses the example, the metaphor, whatever you would call that, peeling of the onion. You're peeling the onion back. So you say you're looking at one level and it looks this way. Then so once you look at that, then you peel that away. Then you're getting to another level of knowledge. See that? You peel that away. All right. So what it's basically saying is that knowing in the fullest sense of the words, that we are always, our knowledge of a particular thing actually is always growing, because as we age, as time goes by, time changes perspective, you see. And so it's basically knowing, knowing in the fullest sense of the word. When you get a word, you want to squeeze as much juice out of this word as possible. Yes, ma'am, Sister Sharon.
Yes, sir. I just went to look up the pronunciation of the word SCIO, and it's SCIO, like Scientology. SCIO.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And where did you get that from? That word,
I went on Google and I put in the pronunciation, and I could play it for you if you want.
Right. Yeah. Well, you can, and I mean, and I think I would take your word what you said about it.
Oh, yeah.
I guess the only thing I'm saying is that when I said skio, I'm coming from what I actually heard L. Ron Hubbard say.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So you have to not, that's one thing that we have to keep in mind too, is that our first reference in Scientology, when we're studying Scientology, would ultimately be directly from a Scientologist or from L. Ron Hubbard or whatever the case may be. So I can certainly see what Google is saying. You follow what I'm saying? But Mr. Hubbard did say it, and that's where I got the pronunciation from, was actually from, matter of fact, do you have the Phoenix lectures?
No, sir.
Yeah, okay. It's in the Phoenix lectures when he goes into the whole thing. Man, he really breaks everything down. He breaks the axioms down and so forth and so on. Anyway, but thank you, sister, because we need that. We need to see what's out there and what everybody is saying as well. Okay. So knowing in the fullest sense of the word, and then logos meaning study of. So we studying these words. And so knowing in the fullest sense of the word, that's where we can say we can bring in the concept of word families. So when we start looking at the word families, then we know in a fuller sense what the word means. Say, like when you go, just like I think it was in This Is the One by Brother Jabril. He was saying that there's something that he says that doubt is the mother of hypocrisy. All right. So when you think about the word hypocrisy, now when you think about doubt being the mother of hypocrisy, well, now that's Scientology. Or that could, I ain't gonna say it is Scientology, but it could be called that. You follow what I'm saying? Because by identifying the family, you follow what I'm saying, then you are able to understand the word more in its fullness, in a fuller sense, you see, by relating this particular hypocrisy with doubt. Because doubt starts, now you are being introduced to some of the underlying realities of a hypocrite, of hypocrisy. All right. And so that's part of what we're saying when we start talking about word families. And this is one of the best examples that I see in what we are studying in our study of Islam. Okay. All right. Any questions or comments on that? Or anything up to this point? The first definition of Scientology and applied religious philosophy developed by L. Ron Hubbard, dealing with the study of knowledge, which through the application of its technology can bring about desirable changes in the conditions of life. And it's really interesting because, see, when you begin to look at it on this particular level, you really do experience some things mentally and actually maybe even emotionally that may not be familiar, because we are not used to taking things apart in the manner of which Mr. Hubbard has has taken things apart. You see, and this is the whole thing about the nuclear physicist part of him. Well, then the nuclear physicist is what does he do? He takes things all the way apart. At least all of the parts that we can see right now. Now, my guess would be that once we get to a certain level, that we will be able to look at things on an even finer gradient than the nuclear physics. And we remember that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught the minister. He said that don't pay attention to how I'm saying it, pay attention to what I'm saying, then you put it into that fine language. So that's what it is. When we start putting it into a finer language, then this enables us to be more solid and more resolute in our concepts of these words, because we're using these words as tools. They are tools of the mind. They are tools of mental and spiritual warfare, that you can fight this war that's being waged on you with the false idea, with the virus. The virus changes up the information that is being examined and makes it appear other than what it is. Okay? Any questions and any comments at this point? Okay. All right, good. All right, so we go to the third part. Sister Sharon, do you have the list in front of you? Can you read the next one?
Yes, sir, I have it.
Okay.
You want me to read the third
Yeah,
part?
just read the third. Yeah, the third little small paragraph or sentence.
Yes, sir. The study of the human spirit and its relationship to the physical universe and its living forms. A religious practice applying to man's spirit and his spiritual freedom.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Thank you. All right. So it's the study of the human spirit. That's interesting right there. That kind of got my eye right there. The study of the human spirit. Who does that? Who's doing that? Studying the spirit. How do you study the spirit? You see.
What is the spirit?
Absolutely. All right. So you got, trying to see, you got 236. And then also, what is study? The definition is not really on the spirit, but it's the study of the spirit. So when you go to study, what do you get? Anybody want to tell me what study is?
Oops.
He's got a simple definition here. Study, to apply the mind in order to acquire knowledge or skill. Now, I'm sure that that's not the only definition of study in Scientology, but we start off with that. Anybody else? You can give me your take on it if you want to, if you got a take on it. Well, I remember brother Robin, brother Robin, and he's been on the call before. He was saying that study, he cleared the word study, and it brought him, the dictionary he was looking at, it brought him to the point of where it said one of the words was reverie. Okay, so if you got study is in the word study, any candidates for the word family? Yeah, I'm just asking, you know. I'm gonna give you a hint. I'm gonna give you a hint of what I'm talking about, you know, because I'm not saying it as though, you know, what I'm saying is the end all. I'm just an anchor point. I'm just a point where you can bounce it off your own mind. Okay, I would say in the supreme wisdom, anything in the supreme wisdom that we have talked about. Hint, hint. That's 2 hints. Consideration. Consider. If I'm considering you for a promotion, what do I do? What is that? What am I doing? I am studying you to see if you are fit for the promotion. If a woman wants to marry, if she's considering a man for matrimony, what does she do? She studies him.
Mhm.
She studies him. It's a consideration. All right. Okay. I don't want to get too deep into that. You know, that's one of my weaknesses. I'll kind of let this stuff get me off on a tangent sometime. Okay. Study, consideration. And see, once we lump these things together, I think it gives us what? A fuller sense of a concept here. What does the Bible say about study? The Bible says, study to show thyself approved. Right? Let me see what Microsoft in Carter says about study. Bear with me for a second here, and feel free to elaborate. Everybody all right?
Yes, sir. We're tracking with you.
Okay. In Carter says, study is to learn about. To learn about a particular subject by reading and researching. To take a course at a college or university. To discover, and I like this one, to discover facts about something by doing research or experiments. To look at or read something and think about it carefully. I like that. To think about it carefully. Consider. All right? To learn the lines spoken by a character in a play. It's a process. Study is a process of learning about a subject by reading, thought, intuition. How about that? Or research. Investigation. An investigation or research project designed to discover facts about something. Okay, I think that gives us a good idea of what we're looking at. So it is Scientology is the study, the study of the human spirit. Now, don't that feel kind of funny though, now when you read it again, once you kind of got real close up on this word study, now when you look at it again, you feel a little funny. And one reason why you feel a little funny is because your data is shifting. There's a shift of data, and then you may not see it with your regular or the resolution that you're used to seeing things at, because you are also witnessing on a certain level a shifting of data within yourself. Sister Jacqueline, go ahead.
Did we say one of the definitions is deep thought? To study deep thought?
Deep thought?
Yes, sir.
I don't remember us saying that, but you know, it's study definitely falls in that category. Yeah. Study. Yeah, I would accept that myself. Now, if somebody sees otherwise, I like to know what you got to say, because this is not like STW. You know, we really trying to get it right. It ain't no such thing in the word clearing. It ain't no, you know how people say it ain't no wrong answers. No. Not in this particular instance. We don't want any wrong answers. There are wrong answers. And that's kind of what we were talking about anyway. It was about the virus. The virus is a wrong answer that have been added to a right answer that causes the function of the original, the function of the host to become impaired or aberrated. Okay, I hope I'm not getting too technical, but I want to get technical because I want to stretch my mind, because I looked at study. I think that might be the first time I really ever really looked at the definition of study. So I don't know about you. And see, so we ain't trying to put on no airs in here and try to make somebody think, well, I know I talk a lot of stuff, but it's good stuff if it's honest stuff. If we sit up here trying to be vain, if we sit up here trying to, just to try to make ourselves look this way or that way, then we're defeating the purpose. I mean, we are really wasting time. That's all that is now. I'm just, that's just it. That's the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Sister Denise, go ahead, dear sister.
I remember someone said study meant to look again at it. And I was thinking about that scripture that talks about study to show yourself approved. And you was talking about the human spirit, the spirit of the human being. And then I don't know why that tone scale came to me as you was talking, to understand the scale of where the human is on the tone scale, in order to bring them to see where they are first, and if you need to bring them up the tone scale. It's almost like a diagnostic that you, to me, this is me now, that you do on the human being. And then I thought about when we check people, we have to assess them, do an assessment of them to see, where their mind is. So we say things to them, when they come into our meeting, to try to assess, or, are they okay? They didn't have nothing before they came through the door. And when you talked about Scientology being applied science, to the spirit of the human being, Mr. Hubbard was saying that, and I was thinking about that's the same thing we do. We might do it differently, but when you learn that it's not a big word like they think when you say Muslim, like you got a bomb strapped to you or something like that. And when you say that it's a person that submits their will totally to the will of God, all of a sudden that definition of a Muslim don't seem so terrible. And so it's like Scientology, you know, when you study it, when you look at it, and you look at it again and all the
Go ahead,
definitions,
sis.
so it gives you a whole attitude about something. It reminds me in Study the Closing the Gap, when the messenger said, when he first read his brother's letter, you know, because mood can affect how you see things. And especially if we have a tunnel vision and that's all we know. So we haven't made room for the unknown, you know, because it's like, well, I don't know everything, but do you have room to learn something new, to add to what you already have? And so when you talk about it, it's easy to digest things when you're not on just one definition of it. When there's other way to study without a book, because the book, that book that says how to read a book, it's a book called How to Read a Book. I think Brother Lukman talked about it. And when the guy said, why would you read a book, when we were headed to the Million Family March, on how to read a book, I say, because the book I'm reading is people. And he said, oh, I never looked at that. That when you're reading people. And so as you was talking, I was thinking about that definition, to look again, because you just not just reading it. Now you ready to study it. Yes, sir. So that's all I was saying.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. Very helpful. And then as you were saying, it made me think about study. That's what Scientology is. It's a study. You know what I mean? It's a study. And then as you were saying, and I think that's a wonderful tidbit, if you would, of the meaning that we should and could use. We say to look again. You know, if I'm studying something, that means I'm looking at it again and again and again. And I guess until I get some kind of understanding. See, that cycle. And so if you look at the original God, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan explains to us, that the universe got created, and then the God looked at it, really looked at it again. Looking at it again could be so, and then you could bring that even up to the study guide. What does he tell you in the study guide? He says examine. So what? So examine is that in the family too? I would think so.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you got examine, you got look again, you got consideration, applying the mind in a lot of those, and investigation. And then you can put in there, I know one of the first cousins, it's got to be analysis, right? Praises be to Allah. Brother Wadu, go ahead, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir, and family. I apologize for my tardiness. I'm handling business with a family member and was off mentally on what we were dealing with. But I take from the word to study, as you just spoke into my thoughts about analysis and examine. Well, first to examine and then to analyze, but I would add to examine intently with the purpose of being able to know all that there is or answer all of the questions about the thing that you are studying.
Okay. So that could come back into what we said in the previous section of the definition, with knowing in the fullest sense. Okay. Because that's what we want to do. We're trying to lay this thing out bare so we'll know exactly what it is. But really, when you think about it, and this is a recent cognition of mine, is that Scientology is a study. And that same lecture series, Sister Sharon, that I was talking about, the Phoenix lectures, Mr. Hubbard talks about, he starts explaining a whole bunch of things. But one of the things he was saying was, he was talking about a scientist and what is a scientist? And he said a scientist is one who studies the effects. So whatever you see out here, me, you, everybody, everything is really the effect of some cause. And we know that when we study the effect, then oftentimes, based on the proper formulation of questions about the effect, the study of the effect can, in fact, lead us back to the cause. So when we study anything, it leads us back to Allah, ultimately, because everything was created and are caused by Allah. Everything. That's why one of the reasons why the first verse of Quran, is that all praises are due to Allah. So look, don't make no mistake about it now, bro. All praises are due right here. See, now, if you get off of that train, now you starting to look a little crazy. And you're actually getting a little arrogant. And you remember what we said about arrogance. So you start getting yourself praise, now you look like a nut. I might have to put that in the top 10 of cognition for me anyway. Arrogance. And I never really saw that until really today, to be honest with you, to really connect with that aspect. You know what I mean? You know, because people come off arrogant, and I'm like, nigga, please, you know? And that's why the God, he puts it out in the very first ayat of Quran. Okay, anyway. Man, this doggone hour passes quick. So it's the study.
Sister Jacqueline's hand up. Sorry.
I'm thinking that she never took it down.
Never took it down? Okay. How about Brother Wadu? Didn't go down either?
Thank you both. Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am, that's correct. I didn't lower it.
You did not?
Correct.
You didn't? Okay, I thought you had the floating hand syndrome there for a minute, bro. Go ahead, Brother Wadu.
No, sir, I was putting it down.
Oh, you was, okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So pretty soon you'll learn something about auditing called the floating needle. Floating needle is when like everything is put away properly in your mind. That's how it reads on the e-meter. A needle action called a floating needle. It just comes by just like a wave that aberration bye-bye. All right. Okay. So it's the study. See, so that's something that we can tell people. Scientology is a study of the human spirit. Now, of course, when you start talking about spirit and all that kind of stuff like that, you know, you hitting a real sensitive nerve when you get into the Nation of Islam, because that's one of the worst things that you can be called in the nation, other than a hypocrite. And of course, nobody want to be called a hypocrite. But probably at a close number 2, you don't want to be called spooky. Where all of us still got a little bit of spook in us. How in the hell can you go for 66 trillion years believing in a spook God and then have the spook God wiped out completely overnight? It just don't happen. But one of the first parts of the process is to just acknowledge. So it says the study of the human spirit. And so by what they're saying here, what is the human spirit? Do they have that? Is that in the technical dictionary, Belinda? Human spirit?
I'll check.
You know, we have definitely studied it now. I don't see it. What he refers to, what Mr. Hubbard refers to when they say human spirit, he's talking about the Thetan, Thetan, the Thetan, or the static. One second. Finishing up a session, brother. Give me about 10 minutes.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to go back over that. We do have some, maybe if Sister Jacqueline, Sister Belinda, if y'all can review your notes. We spent a good time, I think a few months ago, talking about the static. And the static, it's just so much, man. When you start getting these families, boy, these word families. So in the word, the study of the human spirit, or the study, so it can also be the study of what they call the Thetan. What is it? Thetan. And that comes from the Greek word theta. So we're gonna Okay, it says Thetan, the living unit we call in Scientology the Thetan, being taken from the Greek letter theta, the mathematical symbol used in Scientology to indicate the source of life and life itself. And the thing is that I know every time I read this definition, it's like touch and let go. We just got through talking about touch and let go. I'm getting new stuff, new stimulations or whatever, and opening myself up a little bit more to the knowledge really of who I am. Which is so important, because knowing who you are is essential in taking responsibility and being in control of your life. So I'm just going to read a little bit. I'm going to read 2 or 3. I'm going to go, well, let me just read. The awareness of awareness unit. All right, now just check that out. So now you know how to pinpoint you. Check this out now. The awareness of awareness. I mean, are you aware that you are aware? Which has all potentialities, but no mass. You can't touch it, feel it. No wavelength and no location. Number 3, the being who is the individual and who handles and lives in the body. We could say the Thetan is you. It's 4:01, so we're gonna adhere to our strict discipline on this day, so you can look forward to coming and it just being an hour. Because I know sometimes it may drag you a little bit to, when in STW and we go 2 hours, but by Allah, on these sessions here, I'm just really not wanting to go beyond the time that we have allotted. And I know we're moving kind of at a snail's pace, but to me, don't you think it's worth it to go slow like this?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
I hope so.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. I think so.
Yeah, because then it sinks in. And when it sinks in, that's what we're talking about, building the concept. See, the concept, that's what you want out of a thought, is a concept. Something that's left over after you take your mind off of it. You know what I'm saying? And you don't even have to hardly think about it, when you remember it or when you revisit it. So may Allah bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your participation. And because believe me, this is real therapy for me. And it is for you too. And I ain't trying to sound arrogant, because we already know what arrogance is. I ain't trying to sound, I may sound like that. And sometimes it may be a little arrogance there. See, so we don't want to just because we said it, we don't want it. See, that's part of arrogance, even right there. You know how sometimes people think that you should take what they say just because they said it. That's self-righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
Self-righteousness is arrogance. And the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan teaches us that self-righteousness is the highest form of hypocrisy. And I have asked myself recently, I said, well, I wonder, is that the most prevalent form of hypocrisy? Arrogance. Because, I mean, you got straight up hypocrisy where somebody just show enough faking. But then you got some people that want to present themselves as holier than thou. No, they, ain't that. They're not all of that. So anyway, we won't go into that. Thank you so much. And inshallah, we will be back tomorrow and trying to get closer to this finishing up this problems of work. And this thing has begun to get real juicy for me, his problems of work. And what we're gonna do too for the next class, we're going to do it in conjunction with some things that they're offering online from the Church of Scientology. But we'll put our spin, but we'll try to get everything out of it that they see. And then we will put our lens of the supreme wisdom on it. And then we can show enough put what is known in science as an electron microscope. We will put a spiritual electron microscope on it. So with that, we're going to bring this session to a close. May Allah bless us all with the light of understanding. And we will close out in prayer. Now, attention, prayer, and we pray. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, all praises are due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the beneficent, the merciful, master of this day of judgment in which we now live. To thee alone do we serve, and to thee alone do we beseech for help. O Allah, guide us on the right path, the path of those upon you have bestowed favors, and not of those whom your wrath has been brought down, nor of those who go astray after hearing thy teaching. Ameen. Okay, beloved brothers and sisters, may Allah continue to bless you. And we are here for you. Myself, Sister Belinda, Sister Jacqueline, and we are here for you. And inshallah, we just got some beautiful things in store. Inshallah, especially for next year, we're gonna just do some. We want to try to get into some more specific straight wires. So we have people that want auditing, that we want to audit. Not even this is really auditing, as you will see once we clear the word auditing. But this is sort of like a broad net that we're throwing out here. And even the clearing of words is a broad net, but they are words chosen wisely so that they will give you some clause of which you can cling to the technology that will ultimately help to resolve issues that you might have. So may Allah bless you, as you come and go in the spirit of our Savior, Master Farad Muhammad, and his Christ and his Messiah among us, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. In their names, I say unto you all, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam.
Have a blessed day. Thank you.
Same to you, dear sister.
You too, sis. For sharing.
Whoever's still on, Sister Tina's husband had to go to the hospital. If you could send a prayer
Yes,
for her and
ma'am.
her family.
Well, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Alaikum.
Yes, ma'am.
Alaikum salam.